President Joe Biden, thank you so much for talking to us today.
I'm happy to.
And we're happy to talk to you. In a few hours, you're going to embark on your trip to Israel and Saudi Arabia. You've had a long-standing, very warm connection to Israel, spanning decades. You've been there 9 times. This is your 10th visit, but your first as president. Is it different for you to come as president?
It's kind of like going home. I know that sounds strange, but it does. I was raised by what my Jewish friends call a righteous Christian, who where he'd come home for dinner before he'd go back and close the business, and is a place where we gathered to have conversation and incidentally eat. And he used to talk about how what happened to the Jews in Europe was so terrible, and why didn't we bomb the railroad tracks, and why didn't we to the concentration camps, etc. And so I've had a relationship with the Jewish community in my state that has really been close from the time I was 20 years old. Mm-hmm. And then I've gotten to meet every prime minister since Golda Meir. Mm-hmm. Golda had a great line. I was with her, and she was after the war, and she was sitting at her desk, and guy sitting next to me was her assistant, a guy named Rabin, for real. And she was sitting at her desk and pulling down those maps she had me, mm-hmm. and talking about all the damage and everything that was done. And so she said, all of a sudden she said, "Would you like a picture?" And I said, "Well, yes, Madam Prime Minister." And she's looking straight ahead. She said, "Don't look so sad." I said, "Madam Prime Minister, the picture you painted, we're just looking straight ahead." Mm-hmm. She said, "We have a secret weapon." I thought she was going to tell me. So I turned. She said, "We have no place to go." Yeah. And that's true. And that's why I think it's so important that we maintain the kind of relationship we have with the Jews.
So I'm connecting to what you say, sir, and I'd like to pick up and talk and ask you about Iran. Most of Israelis are opposed to return to the Iran deal, and American partners in the region seem skeptical. May I ask you, or many Israelis wonder, why you're determined to return to the deal?
Because the only thing worse than the Iran that exists now is Iran with nuclear weapons. Mm-hmm. And if we can return to the deal and hold them tight, I think it was a gigantic mistake for the last president to get out of the deal. They're closer to a nuclear weapon now than they were before. It doesn't have anything to do with whether or not the Quds Force is going to stop, or they're going to continue to be engaged in activities. We can act against them, mm-hmm. and still have a deal where they curtail their nuclear program. Mm-hmm. And so I still think it makes sense. We've laid out on the table, we've made the deal, we've offered it, and it's up to Iran now.
Are you committed to keep the IRGC on the foreign terrorist organization list, even if that means that kills the deal?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. You, in the past, said you'll do anything, and you say it again, that you'll ensure Iran would not acquire nuclear weapons. Does that also mean, sir, that you would use force against Iran? Is that what that means, if needed?
That was the last resort, yes.
Mm-hmm. And would you work on Israel with that kind of thing? Have you received any assurances from Israel?
I'm not going to speculate on that, yeah. But Iran cannot get a nuclear weapon.
Have you received any assurances from the Israeli government, from Bennett or Lapid, that they will not act without your knowledge?
I'm not going to discuss that.
Well, you can't blame a girl for trying.
No, I can't.
So I want to ask you, if I may, about Saudi Arabia. You will be making an historic flight after visiting Israel. Could you explain for us, sir, what is the reasoning? Is it about oil prices? Is it about giving some sort of answer to Iran? What is the trip about in your...
No, the trip is about stability in the Middle East. It's overwhelming the interest of the United States of America, mm-hmm. to have more stability in the Middle East, number one. It's overwhelming the interest of Israel, and I think the United States in the region, for Israel to be more integrated into the region and accepted as an equal. Mm-hmm. And so, for every reason, it makes sense to me that I would go to the GCC. It's not just Saudi. It happens to be held in Saudi Arabia now. But it's all about making sure that we're in a situation where the broader picture is that there are those who thought with the last administration we sort of walked away from the Middle East, that we were going to create a vacuum that China and or Russia would fill. Mm-hmm. And we can't let that happen. And so, and secondly, the more Israel is integrated into the region as an equal and accepted, the more likely there is going to be a means by which they can eventually come to accommodation with the Palestinians down the road.
Well, maybe I can ask you to give you a preview of what to expect on that, exactly on the normalization between Israel and Saudi Arabia.
Well, that's going to take a long time. But increasing the relationship in terms of acceptance of each other's presence, the working together on certain things, it all makes sense to me.
You were really at the forefront, sir, of pushing for military and security assistance for Israel. We should note that the Obama-Biden administration oversaw the approval of the Iron Dome. But there are also other voices in the Democratic Party, sir, voices that say that Israel is an apartheid state, calling for an end of unconditional aid. There's an undeniable gap between you and those voices.
There are a few of them. I think they're wrong. I think they're making a mistake. Israel is a democracy. Israel is our ally. Israel is a friend. And I think that I make no apologies. We've provided for, in my administration, $4 billion plus another billion for Iron Dome. And we're working on a laser project to be able to replace Iron Dome. It's overwhelming our interest that Israel be stable.
But if even an issue like interceptors for the Iron Dome is a controversial thing, should be concerned for the future of the relationship between Israel and the Democratic Party?
No. There's no possibility, I think, of the Democratic Party or even a significant portion of the Republican Party walking away from Israel.
You're going to meet with Prime Minister Yair Lapid. You're also going to meet with the leader of the opposition, Netanyahu. You've known each other for many years, and the Obama and Netanyahu relationship was, you were then vice president, very tumultuous years. If he wins, you know, we're having elections fairly many times these years. If he wins and returns to office, are we going to see a return of that fraught relationship?
No, what you're going to see is, look, Israel's a democracy. We're committed to the state, not an individual leader. Just like Israel, our allies are not committed to an individual president. They're committed to the state of the United States. And so Bibi and I have known each other for close to 40 years. And we know where we agree and where we disagree. We make no bones about it. But it's I'm dealing with a democratic state that is going through a decision as to who they're going to have as leader. Whoever the leader is, I'll work with.
You're meeting also with Mahmoud Abbas. Yair Lapid became the first prime minister in 5 years to call him. Do you expect any sort of progress on that track at all in this specific political climate?
Well, look, you may recall that I think personal diplomacy matters. What the war that took place not too long ago lasted days, not months, because I got deeply involved in talking with all the leadership, whether it was in Israel or whether it was with Abbas or whether it was the Egyptians. And so I think that it always matters to talk, to see if you can reach any consensus, even on small things, to lessen the prospects of a continued conflict.
If we're on the issue of talking, you're the one who led a coordinated international support for Ukraine, international pressure on Putin. We're almost 5 months into this, sir, and gasoline, natural gas, food prices rising. Are you concerned when you look at the resilience of this alliance when these are the economic pressures?
Well, look, as you accurately pointed out, when I predicted he was going to attack. Others were saying, no, he's not going to. He's going to invade. The idea that we would stand by in the West, NATO in particular, and have the largest invasion of physical force in another country since World War II, and stand there was just not in the cards. And everything that he's attempted to accomplish has backfired for him. Number two, we were able to maintain complete coherence and stability in Europe with all the NATO allies. And as I said at the time, when we imposed sanctions on Russia, it was going to hurt everybody. But It was the price of being able to keep this guy from being able to succeed. And I think it's important.
So how long is this going to last? How long is this onslaught going to last?
As long as it's going to take. We're there till it takes whatever time it takes. We cannot let him prevail.
It can take months. It can take years.
It could.
You think the war could take years to end?
No, you said that.
Yeah,
you said
okay.
It could, okay?
It could.
No, it could. But I think that the pressure on Putin in particular, on Russia generally, is immense.
Yeah.
They're not just trying to defeat Ukraine, they're trying to eliminate Ukraine. We just can't let that stand.
You know, I must ask you, Mr. President, you in 8 days will be in office for 18 months. And I think there's a famous story in your biography by Evan Osnos that you really, at the age of 18, said you wanted to be president.
Everybody says that. I don't ever remember saying that. That's always written in all my biographies. They say,
so that's
Biden knew he wanted to be president.
You really wanted to.
No, but that's not true. What I did, let me tell you, I got involved in public life because of the civil rights movement.
Yeah.
It wasn't about being president. It wasn't about even running for office. For example, everybody says I knew I was going to be a senator before I was 30. You know what happened? I was trying to organize the Democratic Party as part of a young guy trying to get involved with some senior members to move it into the Democratic Party of the Northeast. And so I got involved, and a group of people came to me and said, you got to run for local office. I said, I was 26 years old. I said, I can't, I'm just starting a law firm. And they said, well, you can go to Dover. I said, no, I can't do that. And then the group came, the local group from where I lived, came to me and said, how about running for the county council? And I looked at them, I said, I don't have time, but I was going to be a good soldier and get in there. I won a 4-year term. Next thing I know, I'm trying to get someone to run for the Senate with a group of people, and the group came to me and said, why don't you run? I said, I'm not even old enough to run. One thing led to another, and here I am.
One thing led to another. I have to ask, Israelis are very obsessed with American politics. This gives us respite from our crazy politics. You are the most political experienced person probably in this country. Are you predicting a Biden-Trump rematch of 2024?
I'm not predicting, but I would not be disappointed.
You will not be disappointed. So you look forward to that rematch?
No. Look, the one thing I know about politics, in American politics in particular, is there's no way to predict what's going to happen. I'm not even halfway through my term yet.
Yep.
And so there's a lot of room to figure out what's going to happen. But my hope is that the Republican Party moves back to a normal position. It's not this mega party that it's become in many ways. And conclude by saying I ran for 3 reasons this last time. I had no intention of running for real until I saw those people coming out of the fields down in Virginia and Charlottesville carrying torches and Nazi flags and singing the same anti-Semitic bile that was sung in the 30s in Germany. And my family and we sat and had a family meeting. They thought I should run. And I took a shot. I said I was running for 3 reasons, and no one in my campaign agreed with it. I said, number one, to restore the soul of America, to get back to who we are as a people and the way we talk to one another, the way we treat one another. The second thing was to rebuild the backbone of this country, the middle class. When the middle class does well, everybody does well. The poor move way up and the wealthy stay wealthy. And thirdly, to unite the country. I still haven't accomplished the third piece, and that's what I'm trying to do.
So that sounds like a re-election campaign, sir, to me.
Well, no, that was my original campaign. I know. So we'll see.
Thank you very much for this conversation, sir, and have safe travels and the best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, if you need a ride home, we're going. All right. Well, thank you so much.
I'll take you up on that.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you.